Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first Zoom session. My name is Alex, and I am the Student Enrollment Services Representative or Assistant. And joining me today is our Admissions Officer, Leslie.
Hello.
As you can see on the screen, hopefully you can all hear us clearly. If not, just please send us a message on the chat box. So before we start the session, this is our first session of a series that we are going to introduce throughout the fall and the winter semesters. We'll be having a few sessions just talking about the general themes of what we have come across in terms of your increase. How it will work is we will first talk about some of the topics and common questions that we have received from you. And in the end, we will have a small Q&A session. The session altogether should be around half an hour. So if you see on your Zoom interface here, if you have any questions at the end of our talk, please use a Q&A function. Do not use a chat box, use a Q&A function, and we will try our best to answer all these questions. Obviously, just based on time and also on the topics that might be the most common and relevant to students. Some of the questions we might have missed. In this case, you can always just feel free to email us, and we will try to get back to you within 2 business days. And we'll also leave our email address at the end of the session on the chat box. Okay, so with that said, let's start with one of our first questions that we have received. It's almost a multi-part question, but this is, so let me step back a little bit before. We're primarily going to talk about prerequisite courses today, prerequisite requirements, and also on the GPA calculation and the WGPA, okay? So we will actually start to talk about the prerequisites first. One of the questions that we tend to receive a lot is actually very technical, and it's based on students already applying on OMSAS and how they're actually listing their prerequisite courses on the prerequisite courses list, okay? So questions based on, for example, what happens if the prerequisite course is no longer offered, there's no more link. What do I put in terms of the mark? Some students might have IB or AP credits, or even no credit courses. And how do I ensure that, how to actually put them on OMSAS? What will be acceptable?
Okay. Well, let's start with courses that someone might have taken in the past. If the course is no longer offered and they can't find a course description or link. Most universities do archive their calendars, so it might be possible to see the course description from a course that was taken in the 2015-2016 session, for example. If the link won't work, then maybe just copy and paste the description. What we're looking for in terms of information for prerequisites is the course code, the course title, and whether it was a full year course or a half-year course, and then a link to the description. You can possibly paste the description if you can't get a link, or a shortened version of the description. If you can't do that, you may have to contact OMSAS to ask what they suggest. The same with what to put in terms of marks. If it's a credit, no credit, or a pass-fail, you should just try putting CR or pass in where the mark would go. If the system is showing an error if you do that, again, contact OMSAS to see what they suggest. We don't see what you see when you're looking at your application. So anything to do with how you enter things correctly in the application is really a question to contact OMSAS for. If someone is using an IB or AP course as a prerequisite, it's not the mark from your IB transcript that we're looking for. You can only use those courses as prerequisites if you've been given a university credit for them on your transcript. So what we would be looking for would be credit, because we're treating it as the university transferred course.
Can I ask, Leslie, what about courses that are in progress? So if someone is still taking a course, what should they put on OMSAS?
Well, obviously they're not going to have a mark.
Mhm.
Again, they could try writing in progress where the mark is, but again, that's something to check with OMSAS. If you try a few things, if you're getting an error message, ask OMSAS what is their preferred method to enter courses like that. Because you can be taking the prerequisite courses in the year of application as long as they show as registered on the transcript that you send in for the deadline.
Great, thank you. So on to one of our other questions. So for students who have applied and have submitted their application past the October 1st deadline, what happens if, for example, they drop a prerequisite course that's in progress, or they want to change their prerequisites? Do they notify U of T? Do they notify OMSAS? How should they proceed?
They can't do that. We need to see that the prerequisite course is on your transcript. So we need you to finish what you stated that you were registered in. Now, if something unforeseen happens, like the course is canceled and it's beyond your control to complete it, then yes, contact us and we can talk to you about that. But you must be completing the prerequisites as they are registered on your transcript, if they're in progress in the year of application.
I see. Okay, great. Now onto something based on the actual prerequisite courses themselves. There's a lot of question as to how one will be able to assess their prerequisite courses to see whether they fit within, for example, the discipline of life sciences. Mm-hmm. And in particular, one question that has always been raised is psychology courses. So what sort of tips can you give students to when they're trying to take a look at their own psychology courses in deciding whether they can be used as a life science or maybe as social science, for example?
Okay. Psychology courses, most of them are going to be social science. The ones that are going to be life science are neuroscience courses, brain and behavior, a lot of cognitive psychology. Anything that has to do with the neurophysiology of the brain, or possibly the effect of pharmaceuticals on the body system, is going to be a life science. Pretty much everything else is a social science.
So if I might add, this is despite that if their own home university department categorizes as social sciences. So if there is a neuroscience course under the faculty of, of arts and science, for example, or social sciences, we will still accept that as a life science.
Yes.
Okay.
Most psychology departments nowadays seem to offer a Bachelor of Psychology either under the arts or the science, and the courses are pretty much the same in both. It's just the concentration that you take. So that's we used to say check with your university. That doesn't really seem to be the case anymore. So this is a tip that you can rely on to check your psychology courses and see what category they fit in.
Mm-hmm. That's certainly very helpful. Thank you. On to courses actually now, or rather the courses themselves. We have students that are taking courses that have quite a different structure from time to time. So those could be courses ranging from, seminar courses, courses with experiential learning, special topics courses, or even independent studies courses, and sometimes even graduate courses. Can those courses be used to fulfill our prerequisites?
Okay, so I'm going to take them one at a time. Seminar courses, a lot of universities now offer one or two first-year seminar courses that give the ability to have a small class learning experience. Sometimes there is experiential learning as part of the seminar course. Those are fine. to use as social science or humanities prerequisites, as long as the seminar course counts towards the number of credits you need for your degree. That'll be fine. I've had a look at a number of seminar courses, even at U of T, under the category of life sciences. That course that they're offering as a seminar course, it's about ethics and history of science. So even though it's under life sciences, that would not be a life science. That's going to be a humanities because it's history and ethics. So yeah, any of the seminar courses would be fine as a social science or humanities prerequisite. Things like independent study and special topics where the course content is not set, where it can change from year to year, we prefer that you do not use those as prerequisites. Independent study you can't use because we can't be vetting people's projects. Special topics, as long as the course, for example, is special topics in biology, where all the special topics are going to be under the auspices of biology, and any biology is going to be a life science, that would be okay. But we prefer that you use courses where we can have a course description and we know exactly what the content of the course was. Graduate courses, we prefer that the prerequisites be undergraduate because graduate courses, because they're more advanced, they often draw from different disciplines and are set up very differently, where even though there might be some life science content, that might not be the main focus. If you have a graduate course in biochemistry or in anatomy, then yeah, we'll take that as a prerequisite. But we prefer that you steer away from graduate courses where it's not very obvious what the main focus of the course is.
Okay, great, thank you. And finally, let's talk about marks then. So some prerequisite courses, sometimes students will choose has a credit, no credit, has a pass or fail, which obviously are acceptable. But other courses, they have a mark. And so we often have students asking us, well, does it matter what mark I get as long as I pass the course? On OMSAS, do I put the highest grade of the prerequisite? Does that give you an advantage? And how should we actually include just the prerequisite courses with the highest marks?
Okay, the marks are not a factor when we're looking at the prerequisites. It does not make you more competitive to list a prerequisite where you got a higher mark. It doesn't make you more competitive to list a prerequisite that is at a higher level. Some people think that they should have, it would be better to list a fourth-year course rather than a first-year course. It is not relevant at all when we're checking the prerequisites. We just want to see that the proper prerequisites have been completed or are in the process of being completed, and that you have successfully completed them. Marks don't matter.
Great, sounds good. Now we're actually going to move on to our second section of the session. So, or rather the second topic, which will be mainly GPA calculations and WGPA. And then afterwards, we'll take a look at the questions you have asked us in the Q&A section, okay? So one of the questions that we often receive, especially after the new changes implemented for our WGPA, are students asking, I saw on the website that we are dropping 2 full course equivalents as per new WGPA. Now, are you dropping are we eligible to drop 2 full course equivalents per year of full course load studies? Has it the past? Or am I actually just eligible to drop 2 full course equivalents in total?
It's 2 full course equivalents in total.
Okay.
No matter how many years you have completed.
Okay, so regardless of how many...
No matter how many years you have completed, as long as you have at least 3 years.
Right.
When I say no matter how many years you have completed, the way we used to do the weighting was, it was 1 full course equivalent per year once you had completed 3 years. So if you completed 6 or 7 years of undergrad, you could drop 6 or 7 full course equivalents. That's no longer the case. It's 2 full course equivalents. That is the maximum amount of weighting allowed.
Okay. So I guess for our understanding, if we're eligible for the WGPA, we will be eligible to drop 2 full course equivalents across our undergraduate studies or degree. But even if I were to take additional years afterwards at a full course load, I'm only still eligible to drop 2 full course equivalents.
That is correct.
Okay, I see. Okay. Thank you. On to our second question. We have many applicants who are coming from co-op programs. It is very, very popular nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So how does co-op actually work in terms of calculating the WGPA, or even whether to see if they're eligible for the WGPA?
Well, co-op students are, because their programs are so structured, they usually are eligible for weighted GPA. Basically, it depends on the program. We're looking at, to be weighted, they will have to have at least 6 semesters of academics completed. That would be equivalent to 3 completed years in a non-co-op program. So once that would be completed, they would be eligible for weighting. And this is up to the point of the application deadline. The only difference for co-op is that sometimes their academic semesters are split up. So they might do an academic semester in the fall, a co-op placement in the winter semester, and then an academic semester in the summer. And that's fine. That doesn't make any difference. We're just going to go by semesters, and we're looking for the 6 academic semesters, and we're looking for them to have a full course load when they're in their academic semesters.
I see. Okay.
And as I say, because co-op programs are very structured, usually they do have a full course load in their academic semesters.
That sounds great. Yeah, hopefully that answers a lot of questions that we receive.
I'll just mention one thing that I've seen as a question sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes students will take one course during their co-op. Students will take a course during their work placement.
Mm-hmm.
That's analogous to us of a student taking one course in the summer. So it's part-time, although it counts for prerequisites and it counts for credit. It's not part of the GPA calculation, and it doesn't affect the ability to have weighting in any way.
Great, thank you. That clarifies a lot of things. On to our third question. When we talk about the GPA minimum requirement that we have, for example, being 3.6 on the OMSAT scale for undergraduate applicants, do you refer really to the GPA or to the WGPA or to both?
Well, what that is the final GPA.
Okay.
And that, depending on the applicant, that can be either weighted or non-weighted. If an applicant is eligible for weighting, then it's the weighted GPA we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But an applicant who is not eligible for weighting, it's going to be just CGPA.
So I'm guessing it's because if you're eligible for the weighted GPA, since it's the higher of the two, most likely it will effectively replace your CGPA and be used.
Yeah, that's right.
I see. Okay, great. So about we have questions about, once again, types of courses on whether they will count towards your course load and your GPA, for example. And these are, for example, seminar courses again.
Well, seminar courses, if it's on your transcript,
mm-hmm.
if it's being used towards the number of credits you need for your degree, and there's a mark there, then that will count, yes.
Great, okay. And finally, another very common question that we have that we receive from applicants. This might pertain to usually applicants who already have finished their undergraduate degree, and they're looking to take courses as a non-degree student or as a special student, either to fulfill the prerequisites mm-hmm. or maybe to even increase their GPA. So for example, if someone is actually eligible for the WGPA, they have taken their entire undergraduate degree on the full course load, but they're taking maybe, let's say, just 2 to 3 courses, has an additional 5th year, is that going to impact their eligibility for the WGPA after?
Yes, it would. So if you're doing an additional year hoping to make yourself more competitive, you should be carrying a full course load in any case.
Okay.
If you are taking 1 or 2 courses because you need to fulfill prerequisites, either for U of T or to apply to other medical schools, if you are a part-time student, so if you're just taking 1 or 2 courses, that will not affect whether you're be eligible for the weighted GPA, because part-time study does, it's not used to calculate the GPA. It's fine for prerequisites and it's fine for credit, but it will not be used in the GP calculation or to affect your ability to have weighting. Now, if you're a full-time student with less than a full course load, then that does affect it. Automatically, you will be taken out of the weighting calculation, which is done for us through our application software. You can always use the academic explanations essay and explain why you were taking, 2 or 3 more courses. And it's possible we could give you partial weighting, but we don't promise that in advance. You can always explain anything that affected your academic career in the academic explanations essay. They're all read, so that would be the best thing to do. But yeah, automatically if you are a full-time student but not carrying a full course load, you do not get weighting.
So I guess if I were to apply to medical school myself, I really would have to be careful in determining the number of courses I plan to take after finishing my degree, to see whether I'll be, first of all, a part-time student or a full-time student. And then if I were a full-time student again, I also want to make sure that I'll be taking a full course load to make sure that I'm to be eligible for WGPA if my first degree was.
That's correct, yes.
I see. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Leslie. So these are the questions that we have received most commonly from applicants. We are going to head onto our Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please list them on the Q&A window on your Zoom interface. We'll try to answer as many as we can. Some of the questions that if we have already answered on the video is recorded and we will post that as soon as we can on the website once it's ready. If there's any questions that we have missed, please just feel free to email us once again. So I'm actually going to go through the series of questions now and try to find questions that are that might appeal to sort of a more general consensus of applicants and also ones that have not been repeated. Okay, I'll answer the first one. So one of the questions is, will there be a session on MD PhD? This is something that we're actually going to look at. We do know there are applicants who are interested in our MD PhD program. And so just keep a lookout on our events page on our main website. We're still scheduling some sessions throughout the rest of the year and potentially until a little bit towards the winter semester as well. So we'll see whether we can actually have a session on MD PhD. And if not, again, feel free to email us. We'll be able to answer your questions regarding the program and any sort of admission requirements and additional documents that are required. Okay. So let me take a quick look through our Q&A. Okay, so I guess one question that we have received that maybe we can clarify a little bit further is, how do I know if I'm actually a part-time student or a full-time student? How many courses makes me a part-time student or a full-time student?
Well, check with your university. Most universities, 3 full-year courses and above is considered full-time. And in the summer, it's 1.5 and above for full-time. But check with your university what their standards are.
Thank you. We have a great question here that actually relates to WGPA. So the question reads, if I have always carried a full course load throughout my undergraduate degree, but for whatever reason, there is a 1-year gap on my transcript, does that affect my WGPA eligibility?
A 1-year gap where they're not attending university at all.
Correct. Yeah. Well, this is what
No.
I would assume.
Yeah. No, that will not affect your ability to have weighting at all. You should perhaps briefly refer to it and why you had the gap year. You don't have to go into a great deal of personal explanation, but just in the academic essays explanation, just so we know what was going on. And but no, it's not going to affect your ability to have weighting.
Great. Thank you. I've received 2 questions here that I think we'll just combine them a little bit. So this actually talks about degrees that are not completed in Canada. So in the US, for example, and also abroad. So first of all, are American studies that are degree completed in the US, are they eligible for WGPA? And also for degrees that are completed abroad, outside of Canada or the US, how would you calculate their GPA?
So international students, students who have studied outside of Canada and the States, they must have their degrees assessed by World Education Services. We require a course-by-course evaluation with an overall calculated GPA, and we just use that GPA. There's no weighting or anything like that. We use the GPA that WES provides. To be eligible to apply, it must be considered to be equivalent to a 4-year Canadian bachelor's degree. For students studying in the States, and this applies to both American citizens and Canadian citizens who are doing their degrees in the States. It really depends. There is a much wider disparity in course structure and the way programs are laid out from university to university in the States than there is in Canada. Some credit structures translate very easily into us having the ability to give weighting because they're often very similar to some of the structures in Canada. The ones that are very different, we'll look at individually. We may be able to give part weighting, we may not be able to give weighting. It's just not standard for American universities because, as I say, their courses and credit hours are sometimes so very different from ours. We try and be as fair as we can, and we do look at them all individually.
So in the interest of time, I'll take one more question. And we have talked extensively about GPA and WGPA. So I'd like to take back a little bit and talk about prerequisite courses again. So we have a lot of applicants who might be taking courses at a college, for example, Sheridan College, Seneca College, Centennial. Can these college courses be used as prerequisites? Can we use it for requirements?
Only if they've been given transfer credit. The prerequisite courses must be university courses,
okay,
or courses that have been given university credit.
Okay.
So it must be on visible on the transcript, and we have to know what they were given credit for. For example, we'll see that it's credit for a half year of biology 100 or something along those lines.
So if I have taken previous college studies at the college level, I will have to make sure that these college courses appear on my university transcript as transfer credits and under the correct sort of disciplines or course codes and equivalents. Yes. I see. Yes. Okay. So that's all the time that we have today. Thank you. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to close out by saying that for prerequisite courses, I know a lot of students do worry that their courses will qualify.
Certainly.
And I urge you to please go to our website and look at the definitions that we give, We give a lot of examples of courses that will qualify for prerequisites. We know the urge to check things can be very strong. You're worried about doing your application correctly, but please do look at our website first, because when our email is flooded with requests to check whether a biology or anatomy is a life science, we want to help you, but the answer is there on our website. And when we have a flood of emails like that, it slows us down in our process for doing our review of applications. So please check our website first. If you don't find the answer, or things are a little confusing, you're not sure what something means, by all means email us, but please read the website first. Thank you.
Leslie. So on that note, this concludes our first session. I have included our website and also our email address on the chat box. So we invite everybody to take a look at the website. We have a great FAQ section that will answer most of the questions there. On the main webpage, we'll also have a list of our other Zoom sessions that are coming up. So you'll be able to see all the different Zoom sessions that are scheduled. There will be a registration link as we have provided today that will be posted for each of the sections sequentially. Okay. And other than that, if we didn't answer your questions today, and if you have any additional questions that we missed, just please feel free to email us on our email. Other than that, thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Leslie, for your time. And we will see you at our second session, which will be on September 3rd. And we'll be talking about autobiographical sketch and the brief personal questions. Okay. All right. Take care, everyone.